Hi everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm your host for the show Paranoid Founders, brought to you by Contingent, a company specializing in business insurance. Today, I'm super excited and super lucky to have my good friend Jun, who is also the co-founder of Mossery, on the show. Welcome, Jun.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's our 10th anniversary running Mossery. I'm a designer by training, but I was very interested in products, and I joined my co-founder Vivian in 2014 to take the business full time. So we're actually fully self-funded.
When I asked Jun to join the show, he didn't hesitate to say yes, and there's a backstory behind this because we've known each other since we were 8 years old, close to 25 years. Fun fact, we tried to start our own business 10 years ago. Essentially, both of us have been very passionate about wanting to start our own business. I am just super proud to see how far he has grown Mossery today. I want to dive deeper into how he's built the business in the last 10 years. First of all, congratulations on your 10-year anniversary.
Thank you.
How do you feel 10 years later?
I think it's always, you never thought you work on the project for 10 years, but when you hit 10 years, it's like, oh no, there's still a lot of things to do. It's only day one, like they say.
So just a quick introduction about Mossery for those of you who don't know. I have one Mossery notebook over there, and I've used many over the years. Jun and Vivian founded Mossery in 2014. They aim to create a personalized stationery brand. They want to build a business that can allow people to express their individuality while also offering experiences and in an increasingly digital world. The name comes from blending the word moss and stationery, symbolizing organic and creative growth. Right? I actually did my homework. Mossery's major breakthrough came when they were featured on BuzzFeed. And this was sometime in, I guess, early 2014. You got instant brand recognition, expanded into platforms like Etsy, and a majority of your sales actually come from the international market. And of course, another few pivotal moments was when you secure your retail partnership with Kinokuniya. I was super excited when I saw your notebooks in Kino. I was like, oh my God, this is my friend. Over time, you've diversified into things like art kits, more collaboration with artists. And in your BFM interviews, you talked about how you're expanding into the B2B markets. I would really love to dig into a few challenges over the years. You built this business for 10 years. Maybe talk a little bit about early 2014 when this was a side project, and when did you decide that maybe it's time for us to ditch our full-time job and do this full-time?
I think one principle that guided and forces us to persevere and push this through is really, I told Vivian, go big or go home, do full-time or don't do. Back then, I was scrappy enough to be living at my family home, and Vivian was working full-time. So I had to ask her, what is your minimum expenses? Then we listed down like all her required expenses, and then we realized like, okay, this is the target of minimum revenue per month.
Okay.
So then we were just selling these small pocket notebooks that we can fund ourselves, and we're just selling one book at a time. It was like $5 each. And
who were the early customers?
There were a lot of international customers already, like on Etsy. Actually, very little Malaysian customers.
What was the case? What's the appeal?
I think the appeal is it's very professionally presented because we're graphic designers presenting a product that is on Etsy, which is an arts and crafts market. So arts and crafts, maybe they're more DIY. But as graphic designers, we presented it in a more professional way.
Did you know these customers in the early days?
No, but back to startup wisdom, right? Always do things that don't scale. We just message random users one by one.
Really?
Just like people who would have purchased our products before. And then we told them that we launched this thing, like, check it out.
Okay. So then when you had a conversation with Vivian about this is our minimum expenses, we got to meet this minimum expense.
Yes.
When you looked at the number, it's not too hard, so let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So because you guys are a super design-driven business, and that created your differentiation, I want to understand a little bit about how you think about creating your notebooks.
Okay. So because as designers, we work very closely with production. We knew how to maximize the production. For example, traditionally, when we print one output in offset printing, we were able to squeeze in 9 designs instead of blindly just making one. Because we understand production process, so we can just save a lot of cost from there.
Interesting. And then the graphic design part of it, the books, the covers,
we knew to print with what we call a spot color, like Pantone colors. So everything was just more vibrant than whatever it is out there.
How did you figure out, for you as a founder, going from a designer to needing to run the operations, needing to run financials? What was the point where you thought like, okay, I can't just create a beautiful product, but I also need to make sure that it makes business sense.
I think you just jumped 7 years ahead. Yeah. Because it was only 3 years ago that I went on LinkedIn Learning and took up basics in finance and accounting.
But you survived that first 7 years. And you guys are completely self-funded.
Okay, back to the design. We realized there was a problem with making ready-made notebooks. Our inventory is not fluid enough. For example, like one person might like this cover but uses this kind of paper. So in 2015, we introduced the customizable notebook where people can choose the cover and the paper inside. And that kind of frees up our inventory. And in September 2015, we launched the 2016 planner, which is fully customizable. As designers, we can create a mock-up. We haven't produced the products yet.
Great.
We put it on Etsy, and then we took a pre-order of 1 month. That actually funded the next milestone, which is to move into our office.
You hacked that to figure out your cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. So we get the cash first, then we produce the products. That model has always been our core. We were able to have enough funds to move into our office in Bangsar and hire our first intern. That was 2016.
And then when it comes to pricing, because you guys position yourself a little bit more premium and also selling to international audience, how do you know that this is the right price to set?
Oh man, at hindsight, it feels like we're just cowboyed it. But so we just took whatever that is smart, like whatever is in the market out there, and then figure out what is the competitive price in terms of design and features. But today we do the ground up approach where we calculate the cost and do a markup and then balance it out because we also consider the local market.
So talking about that, because in the first probably 5 to 6 years, you were very heavy on the international market, right? Like 70-80% of your revenue.
Yeah.
So at what point do you realize that maybe we need to diversify a little bit more or start addressing the local customers here as well? Because you were building a lot of traction in Malaysia or Singapore. You probably need to adjust your pricing for the local markets as well. And you have some competitors that are starting to come up.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, honestly, there was 2 forces. One, during and after the pandemic, the cost of supply chain has gone up. So logistics costs like DHL and FedEx have increased. Secondly, we have a local competitor that was more accessible because they have a retail shop and they were just focusing on Malaysian market. So we are shifting our focus back in Malaysia by having more offline events.
It's good. And then, from a marketing standpoint, right? After the news, the media coverage that you got, how did you think about your strategy? I mean, presumably you're a D2C focused business. So paid marketing, how did you manage your marketing costs targeted at US customers, for example?
Only in 2017, we started paying for ads. Because in 2016, we kind of integrated like marketing with product, where like when we launch a new product, we let all these illustrators who has a huge following on Instagram to use it to get their feedback. And we say that if you like it, you can promote it. And most of them, they do. And I think this was a time where Instagram hasn't kicked in their algorithm. So like a lot of artists and creators grow with the brand. So we have an artist where we sponsored and gave her our product maybe in 2016. And back then she probably only had like 80,000 followers. Like today she has 800,000 followers. So by standing with the grassroots creators, we get to grow with them. And I think that's how Mossery grew in the early days.
That's smart.
So if they use it, they will post it on Instagram and then they'll promote our product.
You've been doing that for the past 10 years and you've reached out to these illustrators, people in the community. Do you feel like you have captured majority of these early adopters? And for Mossery, have you all moved from early adopters to like, how do we now serve the mass market? Or do you feel like the brand, and maybe this is a more question about strategy and also philosophical for you as a designer, right? Like, have you thought about moving beyond your early adopters to the mass market?
So yes, mass market is definitely something that we aspire to cater to. However, we gotta target the early adopters first, which we identify as creators who other creators look up to. If you can target the top tier creators to really enjoy your product, the rest will follow.
True.
So that was the strategy.
What are you paranoid the most about? Revenue, cost, things to do with money?
Oh, definitely cash flow these days. We are diversifying our business model. We have an order from America's biggest book retailer, Barnes & Noble, to order from us. However, our production time is 30 days, shipping there is 30 days, and the payment terms is 60 days, so a total of 120 days. So we are shifting from a cash first model to a cash later model and diversify, since kind of like the e-commerce has slowed down since the pandemic.
And that's your move into B2B, right? Tell us more about this Barnes & Noble partnership. how do you get the deal? And
Oh, well, they wrote to us randomly, and at first we were thinking like, is this a scam? But then in the end, we just decided for the safest route, which is, can we get 50% payment? So when the money was in, we're like,
okay,
this is real.
Like, so it sounds like you still have that presence in the US to attract such a big retailer there.
How did they know about us?
Why not?
We're just busy with paying orders now.
Because if you can unlock that, if people are coming to you, people like Barnes and Noble are coming to you organically. That means, which means there are other big retailers who are probably thinking about working with brands like you.
So that's a good first step. That now we're just looking at Barnes and Noble around the world. I mean, when we first received the deal, it struck me how long it takes to build a brand.
Of course.
10 years.
Let's maybe talk a little bit about systems related stuff. A lot of your early sales were through your e-commerce platform, right? And I believe you use Shopify?
We use Shopify.
Before that?
That's a funny story. I tried building my own e-commerce form.
Walk us through that journey.
Because I'm a self-taught programmer, I learned on Skillshare. I tried building it for 1 month, but I didn't go anywhere. So I found Shopify, installed it, and launched it itself.
Fun fact of Shopify was it was actually built by a programmer who was running a snowboarding. I think the difference is he was a proper software engineer.
The key difference.
So walk us through that. When did you decide, like, you know what, I'm not going to build this myself? How did you find out about Shopify? When did you move? Or even when did you decide that we got to be on e-commerce rather than retail?
I'm just fascinated by the internet and the fact that you can do something in KL and anyone in the world can experience that product. So that's the first answer. Second, we moved from Etsy to Shopify reason because we needed to allow our customers to customize more things, which a traditional e-commerce platform like Shopee, Etsy would not be allow that. You need to message the personalization details. That's our drive to move to Shopify. We moved to Shopify in 2016. Back then, it was still fairly new, but we saw that the development of Shopify was rapid, so we decided to hop on it.
And when did you guys go from working with printers to managing printing yourself?
I never thought I would be a printer one day in life, but I did. When we worked with external suppliers, there was an MOQ, and there was a logistics reason of having to go there and supervise and work closely with them. The vision is always to bring production in-house because we believe that a good process will bring a good product. In 2021, we had the opportunity to rent next door. And I read a book about platforms. So we're thinking hey, why not open up our facility or expertise for other creators to create with us? That was a decision to build our own factory.
And how did you make that financial decision?
In hindsight, the utilization rate wasn't there, but the revenue was enough to cover. This was peak of e-commerce. So since then, our revenue kind of dropped because of e-commerce. We're trying to see how we can explore different business model to kind of fully utilize the machines that we have. And so far, we have launched a printing service called Mossery. We might venture into products like photo products. From there, we'll see how we can utilize the machine.
So it's interesting because you're not only doing e-commerce, you're also running your own factory. I want to talk a bit about automation. My favorite question on this show to business leaders and to founders is, when do you move from Excel sheet to out of Excel sheet? Because a lot of businesses, when they start, they just run on Excel sheet and then realize, wait a minute, I can't scale with this. How is that in your business process or culture to think about automation?
We still use Google Sheets.
Okay.
However, we work with different apps to connect to different platforms. So, I mean, Shopify is rich of data. So we use an app to extract all the data from Shopify and push it to Google Sheets. Our manufacturing still uses Google Sheets. My factory worker uses a Google form to submit report. Nice. Then it fits into Google Sheet. I think it's just easier, non-technical person can use. We can plug in data here and there with Google Sheets. It has been doing great. We have a list of Google Sheets where every day that the app pushes data from Shopify to the. We're still looking out for a better software, but yes.
So I guess from a system standpoint, from a supply chain, how do you predict your orders? How do you make sure that the utilization is optimized? What is that entire process like?
So I have a supply chain team doing this. They are constantly doing forecasts observing procurement, observing production output, and making sure that we produce just the right amount at the right time. We do a lot of data analytics.
What is the top 10 selling SKUs?
It's going to be our art kits because I think it's a good price point for including free international shipment. That product actually help people learn how to draw and paint all in one box.
Great. From a systems perspective, what are you afraid of the most? Like if something breaks and you just feel like I am super terrified or paranoid about this.
Recently, our reporting from Shopify broke, so we're frantically fixing it. The only damage it has done is we don't know what's happening, like movement of products, sales, but we're still able to export manually. So the automation broke. Other than that,
what about your machines?
Machines breaking down is a common reason.
Has it happened before?
Yeah,
for how long?
All the time. I mean, it's very common for machines to break down. So our operators need to be very good at troubleshooting. Thankfully, we have support from the suppliers locally to give us support.
How long have you gone without being able to print before?
Wow, I think we've gone a week, and that was terrifying.
That's bad.
Yeah, so we had to find ways.
Do you then look for other printers to help you fulfill in the meantime? What's the operational plan of, okay, you know what? Here's the business continuity backup plan.
Wow, I've never thought about this. But yeah, definitely we can outsource our printing. We do have contacts in mind, but that hasn't happened yet.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I want to move on to our favorite topic, which is about people.
Our favorite.
I always save it for last because I know it's the heaviest. We've run this business for 10 years. You have machine problems. If it happens, you can diagnose and know how to fix it. Revenue, I'm sure there are ways you can drive revenue, do more marketing, do more collaboration. When it comes to people, that's tough.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you to go from starting out a business and then moving into running it bootstrap in the early days, hiring your first intern? I don't think you've been formally taught how to manage people before, and you just jump straight into it. How was that journey like for you?
I found it kind of easy to hire the initial team. I mean, in the early days, like the interview questions can be like, oh, what cause would you fight for? What are your core values? So we managed to gather our team. The early team was pretty on the same page. I think something changed when we started introducing roles and departments. That was the crucial time where we felt a distance between the founders and the early employees.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's just certain people have a culture where, they're used to having that distance between their employer or their boss.
How do you manage that? How do you try to change that?
Well, this is more like a culture question. Then we have to make sure that, hey, we're a startup, you may need to wear multiple hats, and you can't just stick to your own
expectation of the role or the responsibilities.
Yeah, definitely. I think we needed a team or a culture that's more fluid and flexible.
And how do you ensure the people you bring on board and you hire continues to be okay with that, and then managing that, like retaining them, right?
Yeah. I think challenge them in the first month, get them to explore as broad as they can.
What was your first hire?
Our first intern? I mean, she's a jack of all trades. Like, she can write, she can do marketing, but she was helping us with admin and operations, fulfilling orders. Back then, the volume is not that many, but we were able to manage by having, by playing multiple roles.
And how did you find this person? She just
Instagram. We're hiring interns.
And have other founders or business owners come up to you and ask you for advice on, like, how do I look for these people?
I think build a strong brand. Like, I think we were very vocal about our design principles, our core values. We kind of like instill that in our products as well. So in our planners, we prompt people to, like, what are your core values? So if the product speaks the brand, then we attracted many hires throughout.
Were you able to articulate what those core values were when during the first intern? Or is it just through your design principles? Like then there were some like foundation around the design principle, but did you already articulate it like, oh, A, B, C?
Oh, yeah, back then there weren't any defined core values that we have today. But one of them I can remember was we try to learn something new every day. So that was like a tagline that was thrown around. So we always optimize for learning.
Do you have that all spelled out today, like the core values?
Yeah, definitely. Like there were many iterations, but ultimately I think it's something that it needs to be easy to remember. So we started out with the acronym growth.
Classic.
six core values.
Okay.
Yeah. Growth mindset, resourcefulness, ownership, work smart, teamwork, heart and soul. Actually, the last one was a bit, I'm not sure, but eventually that we felt that this is very important to do work with heart.
And was it just like you and Vivian just thought, you know what, let's pick a word and then like let's just give it meaning?
Mm-hmm.
Or was there another process of getting your employees to chip in and then how did you communicate that to the team? Like, today, this is our core value now. Like, how was that process like?
I think it's an accumulation of storytelling because I feel like people adopt core values through storytelling, not like us presenting the core values. So we had to like find a lot of stories to communicate those values through everyday conversation or when we're guiding the team.
And that core value, your core values have not changed since that day, lah.
Yeah.
From a people management standpoint, you said that it felt natural for you to be a people manager.
No, actually management, no, but I guess I was referring to hiring.
Yeah. Okay, so
managing.
Post hiring.
Oh yeah. Man, okay.
Yeah, come on, give us the juicy stuff.
Oh, managing people.
You can start with what did you wish someone had told you about people management that you didn't know about in the beginning? Something that you just thought, oh my God, if someone would have just prepared me for this.
Right. I think as a founder, your early team might feel like friends. And then transitioning from there to putting them in a role and a department, then they might feel like, oh, like, why is the founder who I used to be so close with like distancing? I wish someone told me about that and I could have gave the early team like a heads up.
What happened in that process?
I mean, there was a lot of misunderstanding and like we're trying to like we were constantly introducing new roles and then like deprecating like different functions also. Just whether the employee were able to adapt to those changes.
And if they weren't able to?
We have to spell it out for them. Yeah, I mean, we didn't need to write job descriptions. But 4 years ago, like we had to like start writing job descriptions because people are coming up to us saying that that's not what I signed up for. Yeah, so we have a job description for everyone right now, like and we're always revising it depending on how it looks like. So I guess an advice would be we always have to review what the current person is doing and how it's going to change or how it will change.
What do you do in scenarios where people like don't want to change?
But that's not our core value though.
Yeah, that's the anti-growth.
Anti-growth. Yeah. Well, we do have employees who is very comfortable with where they are. We will just have to communicate saying that just give them that environment and the support that they need to stay to do their job in that position. Depends if it's a factory worker, like we're also okay to secure the ground. So if the ground people wants to be comfortable in their own position, like I think that's a good thing.
True.
It gives security to the business and stability.
What's been like the most difficult feedback that you have received from either Vivian or your team?
Yeah, people always complain that I micromanage a lot. Micromanage a lot. So throughout this 10 years, the question that I prompt myself is always, which detail matter? And I was thinking about this because we still make the same mistakes these days. Like we take care of a detail that is not that important.
Is that the designer part of you?
Yeah, definitely.
Is Vivian the same?
Yeah. So we have to put like the millimeters have to be there, right? Like it has to be precise. Otherwise you'll print something wrongly.
Interesting. How did it occur to you one day that, oh my God, sometimes we are applying our micromanagement
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the product design to
Yeah.
our people.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
Definitely like the more creative jobs at Mossery, they tend to complain more because we're also the creative directors at the company.
So they brought that up to you.
Not a complaint, it's a good feedback for us.
And how is feedback management like at Mossery?
Oh.
Because to me, that's the most difficult part about running a team. It's when people don't give direct feedback, or they don't have the safe space to share. And then it creates this whole environment of like, no one is saying it directly to you.
I think it's very important for business owners or founders or managers to be vulnerable and build candor with the team. And also like over the years, I've kind of tried to observe my own feeling. If I feel something off with this person, I'll be like, Kevin, can we have a talk? Like just a quick one. Then I'll just say, oh Kevin, I feel like something is off. Is there anything you're feeling about your job or your work? So
did you learn that from someone? Or did it just one day you're like, I'm great at this?
Oh man, like I think through generations of managing people, and I think I don't mind sharing, like I also go to therapy. So through that, learning how the therapist asks me questions.
That's good.
Like how, then I will kind of like learn from there.
Yeah.
So I always learn a lot from my therapist. That's worked for me. And today we have a team that I'm very happy to call. Most of them are my friends. Yeah.
I've read somewhere about how for business owners or for founders, a few questions to ask yourself is, if you're not around, will the business survive? And if you're not around, will the business grow? Of course, some team members can maintain the business, but for the business to grow in your absence, I think that's super challenging. And you need a team of managers to do it.
Yep.
So how have you thought about that for like the succession of your team? Not that you're going anywhere, but if anything happens to you, touch wood, and then Vivian, and then who do you entrust to run the business?
I mean, good news is there's 2 founders.
Okay, good start.
A good start, yeah. No, we have not talked about succession in any case. But what I imagine what will happen is the team need to step up as managers so that the company can grow without the founders. In terms of strategy, there's definitely a gap in knowledge, experience, and skills with the current team for them to decide, okay, what product or like which market we're going to target to grow the business.
So one very popular thing or wisdom that's being shared around now is the whole founder mode thing, right? I believe you've read.
No, I've not.
Oh, you haven't read it?
Founder mode? Oh,
okay, so
program.
My understanding is you've tried to hire outside sales managers before. Yeah, don't think I will forget about that. You tried to hire a sales manager or someone in from a corporate.
Yeah.
And then you brought this person in and it just didn't really work out. Either that or you didn't hire the person in the end. Either way, walk me through the thought process.
I think the most conventional wisdom to scale a business is to hire managers to delegate and take over that function. But for me personally, I always found that upskilling and promoting internally people who have done execution before, they make better managers. Because we also measure growth rate. If a new hire does not adapt in like a month or 2, like that is not a good sign. But if you promote internally and upskill them, I think the transition is smoother. And they have that founder mentality as well, because they have worked closely as a team. They will not restrict themselves as, I'm just a salesperson, marketing is marketing, operations is operations.
So why is it that hiring external managers, like why can't they understand that?
More like the person didn't know how to navigate around a business model that was not proven. Hence the performance was not there. And they just resigned.
What other people stuff that keeps you up? Like, what are you paranoid about your team, for your team?
Because we tend to attract very young demographics, so it's very common for people to change jobs. So one way I figure out, and I'm testing this hypothesis where we need to have different cultures within one culture, different tribes within one culture. So in
You're
case...
only 15. Tribe is like what, 3 people?
Yeah, 3 people tribe. So in case that there was something that we couldn't control in terms of like dissatisfaction and a group leaves, it's only 3. So
I'm very curious about this hypothesis and experiment that you're running.
I'm curating different cultures.
Can you have some examples? Sorry.
This might be a very bad example.
Okay.
We notice like people who smoke tend to click better. Then we hire people who don't smoke. So we're trying to de-risk
Interesting.
the turnover from yeah.
It's like divide and conquer.
correct. Then when I kind of build relationship with those small tribes, it's easier for me as well. Then me and Vivian, we kind of split. Okay, you manage this tribe, I manage this tribe.
What if the tribe they don't get along?
Or both
Yeah,
tribes.
like what if they clash?
That's not our core value.
Okay.
So-
Great. Anything that is not aligned with core value, you just have to say that's not core value.
Correct.
Okay.
Very easy, very easy. It's written there. It's very clear teamwork.
Okay. That's interesting.
The good news about Malaysia is very diverse.
Yes.
But that's also
It's challenging. That's great. I want to talk about how you work with your co-founder because I have a co-founder myself. How has it been like?
tough.
10 years together.
tough. I mean, we have our differences and how we approach a problem is very different. So for me, it's launch first, iterate later. For Vivian's method, it's more measure twice, cut once kind of method. So it's very different to school of thought, but I see it as a good thing. So we're always challenging each other to improve the product. But I know that we're both on the same mission to grow the business and to have a positive impact in our community. We just need to remember that.
Was it emotional, the 10-year?
Definitely. Sometimes we just confess, oh, like, this is kind of tiring. Can I take a break?
How do you guys manage conflict? Like, I'm sure there was an argument or a disagreement, and how did you guys come back to center?
I think it has gotten better over the years. I think what surprised me is it took this long to learn how to work better together. And I mean, we found our methods lah. Like, if there's a conflict, it's like, okay, let's let it rest for a while and revisit this again.
Rather than
the next
doing it
day.
in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, correct. Founders have strong personalities. They have strong principles too. Both is good. It's just finding a way to benefit the business.
I feel like I've been the one asking you all the questions, so maybe you want to ask me anything?
Let me think. Maybe make it more fun. Do you trust someone first, or does someone need to prove themselves for you to trust them?
Oh, this is so hard.
You know, pros and cons. Pros and cons.
Yeah, these are the two school of thoughts. I prefer to trust first. In our team, we have this core value called give, trust, not doubt. As a young company, as a startup, speed matters. So to me, if you give trust first, it's faster for you to then, like, if things don't work out, we can address it rather than having to earn the trust. Because needing to earn trust slows you down significantly. But that also means that when I work with people, we need to have some basic level of like understanding about each other. To me, I prefer to go deeper with someone in the early days if you're going to work together.
Right.
Especially if you're going to build something together. What do you think?
I think I have trust issues. I mean, even the moment when we interview someone, it's already an opportunity to build trust. But I don't expect myself to trust someone immediately, like 100% before they walk into the interview room, like based on their resume.
Because
I have to start building from there.
I feel like trust is only built when in a very, very high stake situation and you have to go through something together. An interview, I don't think you can build any trust because you're just telling me stuff.
I mean, the follow-up question is actually, then how do you know whether you can trust a person upon hiring?
So fantastic. Your assessment is you get an understanding from their past experience.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, that's another thing. But you can tell when someone has truly gone through it. And sometimes the questions can be a bit more personal to talk about your traumas and what you've learned in life. Not the usual basic question. Then you have some faith in this person that you can take a bit of a leap of faith.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, there's no way in that short process we can completely trust each other unless I've worked with you before.
Yeah.
Which is why hiring through referrals are the best.
Yeah.
Because I know you or I know someone who knows your work.
Yeah.
And early hires the best through referrals.
I do have another question. You've been in the insurance and B2B insurance industry for a very long time, right? And speaking of trust, I'm just curious. I don't know whether you have a glimpse of the early days of building trust with these partners. And then right now, today, like, how do that?
Like customers?
I don't know.
Shareholders?
Like shareholders, insurers,
employees?
Customers as well. Yeah.
Wow. One thing I learned is there's something about the effect of time. And that trust building, of course, we can have this principle of give trust first, right?
Yeah.
I think people from our previous generation, for their own traumas, they rarely trust people. So for them, it's really earned through time. And I mean, I honestly don't know how to really articulate it because it's not me that have gone through the 40 over years. I've done 5. That's what is that, 15%, 12%?
Man, I think the scary thing about time is like there's nothing we can control in the future, right?
Yeah.
So
Know the part.
yeah, correct. So for example, if we establish a connection today, will our trust grow or like diminish?
It is through
I
experiences.
want to dive deeper, like, but we can do it
So,
after the
I
show.
mean,
yeah.
for context here also, Jun and
Yeah.
I, when we worked together in the early days, it was hard also, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like Jun has his own traumas. I have my own traumas. I have my own insecurities. He had his own insecurities. And we were in this phase of life where we were just unsure about ourselves. And then we went on to build, we took that experience and we found other co-founders, hoping that we don't repeat some of the same mistakes that, each of us had.
Yeah. At hindsight, like I feel like the worst thing was like we weren't able to articulate this
100%.
because like the awareness was not there.
Zero.
As a 23-year-old but Asian male.
I feel like we've covered quite a bit. So what's next for Mossery? Next 10 years gonna be like for you, or next 20, 30?
Yep. With the whole e-commerce boom, we need to diversify in terms of business model. So we need to continue exploring B2B to C, B2C, B2B in terms of wholesale and corporate, providing not just products but also services, and kind of like building startups within a startup. Not that, I mean, we were already struggling with one core business, but it feels like bootstrapping again.
Okay.
So that's the next 10 years.
Do you give yourself some targets on how you want to grow the business?
Right now with obligations is to really pursue profitability right now. But I kind of wish it was back in the early days where we can just grow organically at our own pace. I'm doing a little bit of that right now, but I have a team now, so I can drive progress.
This might be a sensitive question, but is there a reason why you guys prefer to stay self-funded and not rely on external money?
I think our business is not sexy. Yeah. Oh, sorry?
That's not true.
Yeah, I mean, if we pull in, revenue figures from Moleskine, like they did more than 100 million euros last year, I feel like there is a market out there. Maybe the investors that we approach, their appetite is just different. Yeah, so we're definitely exploring different ways, including like equity crowdfunding.
That's great.
Thank you for having me, and thanks Michelle for editing this show. It's just 3 of us in the studio, and we're founders. We do it from scratch and do it ourselves.
Jun and I will go way back, so seriously, thank you so much for doing this. We've had a lot of conversations like this, and over the years, we've grown so much per people and founders, entrepreneurs. Jun and I share this thing where we set our life goal together. It's very cringy, but like, honestly speaking, helped me so much to define what I want to do in my life. And I think for Jun too, we literally still share that Word document together.
Yeah.
But I think what I do want to say is like, it's funny to say this live, but thanks for being such a close friend, partner, whatever you call it, right? Whenever I have problems, I'll just message you. I think vice versa. It's so good to have you on the show. Hopefully this will help many other founders there.
Yeah.